So we are going to move into solving radical equations. But before we do that, I want to just look at how we solved one and two-step algebra equations. So let's pretend we're going to solve the equation x minus 5 equals 12. What would we do to get x by itself? We would add 5 to both sides of the equation. So we're always going to do the inverse or opposite in order to remove something. So we still have our x, but negative 5 plus 5 is 0. We got rid of that on that left side. We still have our equal sign, and we are left with 12 plus 5, which is 17. So we added 5 to both sides because it was the opposite of minus 5. So let's pretend you've got the equation x plus 4 equals negative 9. How could we get x by itself? We would subtract 4 on both sides of the equal sign. So we still have our x, the positive 4 and the negative 4 cancel each other out. We've got our equal sign, and we have negative 9 minus 4, or negative 9 plus negative 4. Either way, it's still the same. It's negative 13. Great. So these are probably things you remember from previous math classes. Another situation you might see, or you have seen, is, let's say, negative 6x equals negative 54. So negative 6x means negative 6 times x. So in order to get x by itself, we need to undo the negative 6 times x. So what is the inverse or opposite of times multiplication? It's division. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 6. When we do that, we're left with x equals negative 54 divided by negative 6 is 9. So this is all stuff that you used to do in the past. And what we learned is in order to isolate the variable, you needed to do the inverse or opposite of the operation of what you had. So let's look at a different situation. Let's look at what happens if we have a radical. So let's say I have the square root of x equals negative 7. The important thing to remember in something like this is that a square root and squaring are inverses or opposites of each other. And if you had a cube root, the inverse or opposite of that would be to cube something, to raise it to the third power. So in this problem, in this equation I gave you, if I want to find out what x is, I need to do what I did before. I need to undo the square root. And now I know that the inverse or opposite would be to square it. So I am going to square both sides of the equal sign. And remember, as we did in the other problems, what you do to one side, you've got to do to the other. So on this side, all that happens is I'm left with x because squaring it gets rid of the radical here. And then if I put negative 7 squared in my calculator with parentheses, I get 49. So let's look at another one here. Let's look at the cube root of x equals 5. I want to solve for x. So in order to undo the cube root, I need to do the inverse or opposite. I need to cube it. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. So when we do that, we are left with x on the left side. So there's nothing to put in the calculator there. And when you enter 5 cubed in your calculator, you get 125. So I'm going to have you try a few of these, and we'll see how it goes.